Just gonna start by playing this. So it's a loop. There's no any other element in it except drum related stuff. So that is actually looping that section, small section. I'm going to share my screen one more time and then just tell you about the thought process in terms of what was actually going on in my mind when I was creating that. And then we get to talk more about that. So, I mean, each and every production, each and every song will kind of need different things. It will need different treatment based on what you're trying to achieve and what the song is all about. I personally like to start with the chorus or the biggest part of the song. If I can kind of get it popping, I feel like the rest becomes easy. So let me play you what I started with and then explain how I achieved that. So how I came with that is that I started with a kick and a snare, and just like almost every producer would do, I started with those. And once I know that I want them to sound this way, to have this specific pattern, then in a way it becomes easy to kind of build on top of it. Because I'm not a drummer, so I kind of put the kick and the snares, and then later on do my hi-hat, uh, and then spend a lot of time on the hi-hat because then that's where the actual groove is coming from. So the pattern of the hi-hat will actually just give away what we are trying to achieve with the groove. So in a way, that's how I would do it. And then later on, add some nitty-gritty stuff that actually just brings interest into the whole pattern, just like your claps into each and every like other bar or something like that. Let me just now play you this together with the loop that I added on top of that, just to give you a lesson, and then you get to tell me what you think about that, and then I can explain the thought process behind that. So you can hear right there, just by adding this loop that I call loop chorus, it just lifted the whole thing yet to another level. And that's what I like to do with these things. So basically, if you can listen to where we come from, which is just a section of almost no drums, into a chorus that just lifts up the whole song and makes it to kind of be big and stuff like that, just driving the song more and stuff like that. So you can see I've got stylus, which you might have, you might not have. The tools really don't matter. What matters is that you know how to use them. So I have stylus, and what I do is instead of just taking a loop, so you see that it's a loop that is loaded, but then I don't use it as it is. So if you don't know this, stylus actually allows you to, because it would then slice that whole loop onto your keyboard, and you're able to play it as if it's an instrument. So that's how I like to do it, because I don't like the idea of being led or being directed by the loop itself. So I would then play the pattern the way I want it to be, and then and manipulate it that way. In that way, you have got more control in terms of your production and what you're trying to do. I'm going to show you what I did in terms of now adding interest into the song. So just beefing up the whole thing. This is what I then did. So let me show you. So this is just more of like your effects that you would put in and out, just to make sure that you keep interest with the listener and that they don't get bored. So it's stuff that I like to do almost every 8 bars or so in the song, or maybe moving from one section of the song into the other, just to say, hey, we are now moving into another section. Um, so what I have here is a it's what I call a boom FX, but then it's what it is. Essentially, it's something from Contact. It's called Rise and Hit, and you can see right there. You don't have to have the actual or the exact thing. You may use what you have to do the same thing. So that's just what I like to use. So how it sounds on its own, it's it's this. So, I mean, that's just lifting you up and saying, hey, we are moving. We're going into a chorus, we're going into a bridge, we're going into the next big section. And I like putting them in sections where now we're going into the loudest section of the song or something like that. So, together it would sound more like this. One more thing that I like to do is that I like to I like to kind of add also something going on with the lows, because on this specific song I chose a kick that was more in the upper lower register than the lower lows. So my idea was that the bass would then occupy the very low lows, and then in that way then I have a very nice thing going on. So but then I decided maybe I could have like a sub kick still going on each and every second bar, just to kind of have it moving. So that's what it is essentially. So that's all you have. So that's supposed to just now make the whole kick thing be longer and kind of add interest into it as well. So this is what happens with all of them. So just adding that big thing going on down there. Here we go. To me, that is popping. Already, that is so much better. And I could actually stop there, and that's it. So now I'm going to share with you what I do with them to kind of make them even pop even more, because then remember what you're trying to do. I mean, there's only one thing in music. It's you are, as a producer, is you are trying to kind of have something that is popping. You are trying to get something that is appealing, something that is grabbing. And with drum loops, you can't afford to have something that is weak, really. You want to have something that is kind of popping and adding value to the song. So let me show you how I do that, and then we get to discuss about that later on. So as let me just go into the mixer and show you. You might not have the same thing Like I said, it doesn't matter really. The tools don't matter, and the tools don't make you sound any good. The tools actually are there and to serve you, and yours is to know them as well as you can so that they don't come in the way when you are trying to make music. Um, like what I always say is that if you don't know your gadgets very well, they will kind of lead you to producing or creating or writing your song in a specific way based on what you know about the software, based on what you know about the instrument, based on what you know about that specific platform. So it's important to make sure that you've got time to spend with your tools just to know them as well as possible, because the right way, or let me say the most effective way of doing this, is that if you've got a song going on, or maybe you are someone who does music for other people, if you're doing music as a business and you kind of have to make music for other people. It's important for you to have strategies that actually win all the time, kind of, because then if you want to make it as a business, you want to make sure that you're able to move from projects very quick. You don't stay with them too long, because then you won't make any profits. These are just the instruments that I like using. I'm not sure if you can see up there. So I've got battery, which is almost like my main thing that I started with, and then I've got stylus that I explained how I use it. So instead of just taking a loop from there and using it as it is, it's actually nice to have it sliced on the keyboard, and then you get to play it as if it's an instrument. You will still get the same elements of that specific loop, but then the loop now will be doing what you want it to do, instead of it just now dictating what should be happening with the groove. So that's how I like to use it. And then now I've got the drums here. I've got something called shape, and another shape, another stylus, and then contact for that rise and hit. So now this is where things get interesting, because what is actually beefing up the whole thing and making it sound that way, it's all the other processing that I do to them. So basically, like if you check here, I've got tape. So tape plugin or any tape software would do the trick with drum loops, and that's why I like them. So I add that to beef it up, and then later on add, for example, let me just give you a taste of what this loop would sound without uh, the what is it, without the other effects that I have, and then you get to hear what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna switch off uh, uh, this effects that I have, and switch off everything that I have on the mix bars, and then you might also hear a drop in volume. It's okay. We will solve that, and then we'll get back to a good volume for you. So let me play um, what I have now, and then so you can hear what I'm talking about. It's the same loop, but then it doesn't have that punch that I had, and that's what we're talking about. It's how to add punch to what you already have. So um, and then I'm just gonna play you again with this processing that I have here, and then you get to compare it with what you just had. So you might say I'm cheating by actually just pre-processing the stuff and actually just doing some kind of mixing, but then that's not what I'm doing. It's actually just enhancing the track. So basically, your job is to get stuff popping. So, and there's nothing else. You just have to get it popping. So you do whatever that you have to do to get it to sound nice. So, and that's what you are hired to do. Um, and it doesn't matter how you do that. It doesn't matter what tools you use to get that, as long as you get it going. So what I have here then, it's some plate reverb that I like a lot on your wood sticks. and stuff like that. So let me play you the loop. So another thing that I would like to share with you about doing something like this, or programming drums, is that it's always a good idea to focus on sections and nail it that way. So like I said, I like starting with the loudest section of the song, because once you get the chorus going, once you got that chorus popping, once you got that chorus sounding great, it's easy to do the other stuff that now builds into that. So, so let me play you this little loop that plays before that, so you can hear what I'm talking about. Then I'll tell you what I'm doing to them. So here we go. And I'm just going to leave it to play into the chorus so you can hear the drastic change that happens when we move into another chorus, another section. I mean, that for me is exciting. It's engaging. Something new is happening all the time. So, in a way, it keeps the listener's interest up there and it keeps you engaged. It makes sure that you don't get bored. So, in a way, that's why I like to have. That's why if you can check here, I've got a loop. Let me just show you my screen. I've got a loop for just a verse. So, and what it is really, let me just do this so you can just hear the loop on its own. I've got a loop just for the verse, and I work on that. And once that is going on, and I add whatever that I want to add on that to make it sounding nice for that section. And then later on, so that was actually going with a sub kick. Let me just play you this. So you can hear what I'm doing with that sub kick. So the sub, I mean not the sub kick, the wood block thing, the thing that is going do. And basically what I did is I took a tom. This is actually an electronic tom coming from battery, and what I did with it is that I kind of uh, um, I added a delay. You can see this. Let me just take myself out of there so you can see what I'm talking about. So added a delay there, and that's what is giving it that do going on. So I mean, like, all these things are depending on what you have and what you're trying to do, and they are subjective to however you feel in the song and what you like to do. But it's just to share with you how I like doing things and how I like keeping interest, and you may have it going on in a different way. I'm gonna now show you some little tricks that I do, that I like to do to kind of now enhance the whole thing and yet take it to another level. So hang in, don't go anywhere. So I'm switching into Pro Tools now, and we get to check this together. So yeah, to recap, let me play you what we have, and then I will show you what I like to do next. Man, it's already popping for me. I am loving that. I'm actually loving that. So I wouldn't mind stopping there actually if I was doing this. That would be enough according to me, and we should be able to get something interesting out of that. So but then I'm going to show you a trick that I like to do on loops that I may have kind of played them, especially loops that I get from stylus. This is what I like to do. So like I said, I would get a loop from stylus. I love stylus because it has so many colors. I mean, you can use any other thing that have the same kind of a thing, but then I love stylus, and I've kind of grown to know it and manipulate it in such a way that I'm able to get whatever that I want to get all the time. So, but then sometimes the loop is too bright for me. Sometimes the loop doesn't have enough energy, and this is what I do next to give them that unique thing going on. So let me just play the loop on its own and kind of tell you what I do with it later on. So you may say that is distorting. What are you doing with a distorting loop? But trust me, distortion is not always a nasty thing. It's actually something you can use to enhance your stuff and actually get some stuff going on and get it pumping. So I wanted it to sound trashy a bit, and I did that actually in Luna, and then bounced this as stems because it's a good idea to actually make sure that you bounce your midis into audio once you're done with them. So I was about to show you what I do to that. So I would add something. It's also like a distortion kind of a thing. It's a this one is called Lo-Fi. It's a plugin that Pro Tools has, and I'm not sure if any other DAWs have something like this. But then I'm sure you can get something like this. There should be a plugin that is almost the same as this. So whatever you're using, you will be able to get the idea. So what I like to play with on this specific software, it's the distortion and the sample size. So let me play it without it and then with it. So this is just dry with the distortion that I added when I was printing it. Now I'm going to take it down and then listen to what happens to the loop. So it feels like it's breathing, right? It's almost like it's just taking every other thing that is within the song and just bringing it up. Within the loop, it's just bringing it up, adding beef like that. So, in a way, I'm able to kind of manipulate the loop and make it sound interesting. But then now check this out. So, I'm going to now take this sample size and bring it down. So, here, listen to this. This is not the same thing as just having an EQ and rolling off the top. It's man, it sounds like an effect. It sounds like some old what is it, cassette kind of a thing, which I like to do with the secondary loops that I add. So basically I would have the first loop that is just clean, and then I have a secondary one that I can just do all kinds of crazy stuff to take things into yet another level. So together they will sound something like this. Yeah, that is already kind of giving it some nice thing going on. So I like kind of doing those kind of things because they add so much interest into the whole vibe and just makes them unique and sounding different. Another trick that I'd like to do with moving from section to section, which is adding some effects. So basically, this is what I have, and I'll explain what I did to it, and because you might not hear the difference now depending on what you're listening through. So you can hear that that's just a reverse cymbal, but then it has other things in it. So what I did is, since this is a stem, when I was working on it in Luna, what I did is that I kind of added a reverse cymbal and joined it with chimes, electronic chimes, because I like those better for some reason, depending on the style of the music, obviously. So, electronic chimes together with this, and in some cases, I'll then pan them in different speakers, have the other one going on the right and have the other one going on the left. And then later on, added some kind of like a reverb to make it longer, to prolong it and to make it sound lush, so that it's not just shush and then stopping. So it's almost like giving you this nice smooth thing that is just going on. So I'm sure you can hear that. So there's a reverse cymbal that is starting almost from the left going into the right, and then you've got this chime that is just happening on the left, sustaining and giving it some nice thing going on. So together with that, because that is occupying the very high frequencies, because this is another trick that I like to do, is that I like to kind of add interest in the production by covering the different frequency spectrum thing. And what I do is, if I have something going on up there like that, I would then add something else going on, maybe in the middle range kind of a thing. And that's why I like this one more. So in a way, you've got that effect going on, and you also have another one which is happening higher there, and then you just have this force of sound coming at you at that spot. So with this kind of thing, I like adding them to add more drastic change. So to say, hey, now we're moving into the chorus, come along with us. So in a way, it's just to because I mean, like, as someone is listening, I mean, so a lot of things are going on in their minds as they're listening to the song. So you don't want to kind of make them drift away from the song by having too much repetitive stuff. So in a way, like I said, I like to add a new element each and every 8 bars or something like that, depending on how the song is subdivided. It might be 4 bars. So and in some cases, it's not the most distracting thing. It might just be a small thing like adding maybe what is it? Maybe on the first part of the verse, I just leave it dry, and the second part of it, I just maybe add something like a shaker going on. And that shaker is not going to be the same shaker that will go throughout the song, because that's another thing that just keeps the song grounded and not lifting up. So in a way, you would have a different loop for almost every section. That's how you kind of paint the picture and kind of take the listener with you going forward. And that's what I like to do. To recap, let me play you what we have.